And welcome back. Joshua P. Warren with us. George Norrie back with us. All right, Josh, what did you find out about the pit of the Black Abyss?
All right. Before I tell you the technique, I just want to say right up front here, again, George, I want to thank you and Tom and everybody at the Coast to Coast AM family for having me and my show Strange Things on the Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. I absolutely love it. As Tom said before, go to coasttocoastam.com. You can click the link at the top that says podcast, and you'll find me there along with the other hosts. And to all of those who listen to my show, Agiatato Zume. That is our magic word on the show. Now, that said, okay, Pit of the Black Abyss. Again, this kind of reminds me somewhat of a psychomantium setup because you want to go into a dim room with a mirror. But unlike the psychomantium, where you sit maybe 3 or 4 feet away, in this case, you want to get right up next to the mirror so that you are looking into your own pupils just a few inches from the mirror. And when you do this, you need to have a sheet of paper in front of you and some type of a writing or drawing utensil. Could be a pen, a pencil, doesn't matter. So here you are, and also the lighting doesn't matter. That you can use a candle or whatever you have as long as it's just dim. You want to, however, be able to look directly into your own pupils. It's almost like staring into black holes in outer space. So as you stare into your own pupils, it's okay to blink, but try to resist blinking if you can. The idea is for you to keep looking deeper and deeper and deeper into that reflection of your own pupils. Imagine that these are the abysses, and you're going as far as you can. Now, as you do this, you have your writing utensil in your hand, and without looking at it, you allow your hand to start making circles. And so the deeper you go, the more circles you draw. You're essentially creating what might turn out to look like a big black blob or dot of some kind. And you do this as long as you want. It can take you 5 minutes. It might take you 10 minutes, but eventually, probably within 10 minutes at the most, you're going to go as deep as you can into those pupils. And at that point, you stop, you close your eyes, and you take a deep breath. You detach yourself, and you look at what you've created. Now, when you look down, you might be surprised. You may see something that looks like a perfect circle. You might see something that has even a weird message. In my particular case, I guess my hand, the first time I did this, drifted a little bit from left to right. So it looked a little bit more like a cylinder than a circle. But nonetheless, now you have this piece of paper which has got this blob that you have created as you were psychologically plumbing the depths of whatever was within your own pupils. Now, this is where it gets really weird and pretty awesome as well. This drawing that you have just created is now a psychic battery. And what you want to do is just fold it up, and you can put it away somewhere special to you, somewhere safe, put it in a drawer, or you can carry it with you. It lasts forever, but whenever you need something to help you, when you need a boost, when you need a miracle, when you need some kind of extra energy from the universe, you take that piece of paper out and you tear it in half right down the middle of that pattern and release whatever you put in there. Boom. It's like an explosion. And that is going to create this ripple, this spiritual ripple, and it's going to super boost whatever it is that you're trying to achieve at that moment. And the first time I did this, and of course I'm looking at this and I'm saying, this kind of makes sense to me, but I'm a weird guy. But it also seems kind of crazy. How am I going to test this out? I'm always experimenting with so many things. This was going to be very weird for me because I was thinking, like, how am I going to differentiate this from other things? Well, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I really do not mean to reduce everything down to gambling, but I do live in Las Vegas. And that night, I had a friend coming into town, and he was taking me and my wife out to dinner. So I brought this thing with me. And as you can imagine the end of this story, after dinner, we went to a casino. I put $20 in. I hit the button a few times. Nothing was happening. I told them what I was going to do. I took out the paper. I tore it in half, hit the button, and boom, I hit a bunch of money. And since then, I've only used this method a couple more times. One time I did it, and I don't like to talk about health because I'm not a physician and I'm not qualified to give that kind of advice. But I did use it one time when I needed a boost in that department, and then I used it another time to help somebody else out. And this is still really new to me, and I think it's going to be incredibly exciting to put this information out there through Coast to Coast AM and to see what all of the listeners do with this and what kind of feedback I get. And you can always contact me through my website, joshuapwarren.com. There's no period after the P when you put that in there. And I read every single email. I can't answer everyone, but I look forward to seeing what reports I have for you from doing what they said, George, and that is to teach others this strange method.
Good for you. Now, what is the Apex machine you've been working on?
Oh, boy, the Apex machine. You know what? There are so many different ways of trying to manifest what you want that I always say to people, look, some things will connect with you and some things will not. Some people like the idea of a machine that has an input plate, an output plate, and knobs. Some people don't like that. They don't like the technical stuff. They prefer a wand, or they want a crystal, and look, I don't know how these things work. If they are the world's best placebos, that's fine. If they work, who cares? But you got to find the thing that works for you. And I have always had enormous success with wishing machines. And for many, many years, I guess I started experimenting with wishing machines. Well, I first learned about them when I was a teenager. When I was in my early 20s, I finally bought one. And the first thing I did was wish for my money back, and I got it back. So when you get these machines, like that connects with me. Believe it or not, I actually have a fairly logical engineering type mind. You wouldn't believe it from listening to this interview. But I like the idea of, like, here's my input plate, here's my output plate, here's how I tune this machine. There's a circuit inside. That gives me satisfaction. So Dr. Mulder and I, for many years have been doing what we call the Wishing Machine Project, where we put machines out there and we get feedback from people about what's working for you and what's not. Over the years, we have shipped thousands and thousands of machines all over the world to every culture, and we've been crunching all of this data these years. And this year, we took all that data and we decided to create the fastest manifesting wishing machine that we've ever made. It is called the Apex machine. And what makes it special is not only is it designed as the Rolls Royce. I mean, when you look at this thing, you can tell by the look of the case and everything. But the input plate is actually an orgone accumulator. And that's a whole separate topic for another day, but a lot of people know what I'm talking about. The input plate is an orgone accumulator. The output plate is a mirror, and it's got a genuine Herkimer diamond on it. And the first time I used it, I tuned in something really obscure. I got it, and I said, okay, what's something just out of the blue that could happen to me today? And I know that we were talking about how I know you're not a big fan of clowns, and maybe that's what made me think of this. But I thought, like, okay, I don't go out and encounter clowns every day, so I just tuned in. I will see a clown today. Okay, I don't know why. That was just like some crazy off-the-wall thing that came to me before I went to bed. And the next day, I'm flipping through the channels, and what pops up on the TV is this movie with Robin Williams called Patch Adams, where he is a doctor who dresses up like a
Like
clown,
a clown.
and he treats children. And the amazing thing about that is I actually worked on that movie. I was actually in that movie as a featured extra, and I actually have a like 2 seconds on screen with Robin Williams in that movie. And I haven't seen that in forever, and it just gave me goosebumps and cold chills. And I thought there was not only a clown, but a clown that was specifically personalized for me. So I could go on and on with stories, but if you want to see what this thing looks like, just go to theapexmachine.com. Apex is APEX. Go to theapexmachine.com. But so far, this is the fastest manifesting wishing machine we've ever created. So thank you for asking that.
To the phones we go. Joe in the Bronx to get us started. Hey, Joseph, go ahead.
Hey, George, how are you?
Okay.
George, I had a question which is more for you, but Joshua had a hand in it. When you received the gift of a Robert the Clown, a copy of Robert the Clown, what creeped you the most about it, and why did you give it away right away?
Well, because I didn't like it, and it looked evil to me. And we gave it to that woman who still loves it, I think. Remember that, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you did it because if it brings somebody else joy, why not? And she's got a heck of a conversation piece at her house, but sometimes it's good to say, like, the energy of this thing doesn't work for me, but somebody else will really just connect with it. And do you know, though, George, that is a good question. I mean, do you know the root of why that you have such a dislike for like clowns and dolls and things along those lines?
Maybe it was Stephen King's, was it It?
Oh, yeah?
They just look evil to me. I mean, I remember as a little boy, they would look at you with these weird little eyes, and, John Wayne Gacy didn't help out either when he dressed up like a clown.
Yeah, good point.
Joe, did you have a question for Josh?
Yeah, Joshua, what are you going to be working on next? Whether it be in the realm of ghosts or magic or, whatever. I mean, I know you mentioned a portal at near Area 51, but what other project are you working on?
Well, that is my favorite question, and it's also my most difficult question to be asked, because I found out a long time ago that when you start digging into paranormal investigation and paranormal research, ghosts and UFOs and cryptids and psychic phenomena and angels and demons and interdimensional stuff are all kind of connected. And, Joe, I'm glad you asked me this, because over the next year, I'm kind of working on all of that stuff. Again, I'm hoping to make progress, as you said, on this portal device, which I don't even know what the results of that are going to be. And I know people are going to email me and say, "Oh, you're being careless with this stuff," but I'm being as careful as I can. But I also, when it comes to ghosts, I have obtained a wheelchair. And this is actually something that I do have in my house. This is a wheelchair that was on the History Channel, and the owner said that it was used to wheel Franklin D. Roosevelt out to one of his political conventions. And that has an interesting connection to me, because outside of Las Vegas is a little town called Boulder City, and I have a tour there called the Haunted Boulder City Ghost and UFO Tour. And Boulder City was the city that housed the workers for what they called the Boulder Dam, now the Hoover Dam. And Franklin D. Roosevelt was there when they gave he dedicated, the dam, the Hoover Dam, when it opened. And so they're building a visitor center, and they're looking for interesting items. And so I obtained this Franklin D. Roosevelt wheelchair, which is going to end up in the visitor center. By the way, if you're this fall, especially if you're near Boulder City, just go to hauntedbouldercity.com and take the tour. I created it and I own it. And so the wheelchair is in my house. and I've had it only for a few months, and half the time, well, I don't know, maybe half, I'll say more like a third of the time, when I go downstairs, this wheelchair is in a different position. Like it's rolled, I think the farthest I've seen it roll is 4 inches one way or the other. Nothing else in my house has moved. And I know you're thinking, well, Joshua, where's the film footage? I have a camera. I've been collecting footage, and I will get to that in the future when I'm ready to release everything. But I'm studying whether or not this Franklin D. Roosevelt wheelchair is haunted. And the third thing is I have a new kit. This is the last thing I'm going to produce before the end of 2023, a new kit that I'm going to put out, which is something I invented that combines tapping into Wilhelm Reich's orgone energy with chakras in order to boost your personal bioenergy. And this is the metaphysical part. So this is something I'll only be announcing, however, through my free e-newsletter. And, my e-newsletter it's been around a long time. It's very popular. If you go to joshuapwarren.com, it says it's right there on the homepage. Click here for Joshua's free newsletter. I write it with my own fingers, typos and all. It's free and it's spam free. I pay for it, so I don't have to give you any ads or any stuff like that. And I'm going to tell everybody about this new kit. And so basically, I'm working on a portal at Area 51 that will maybe open up a realm to communicate with aliens. I have a haunted FDR wheelchair in my living room, and I have a metaphysical kit coming out this fall. So that's my immediate future. But thanks again, Joe, for the question. I know that was a long answer, but I have life is short, and there aren't enough hours in the day, right?
How long were you in Puerto Rico, Josh?
I explored Puerto Rico for a good 15 years, and I lived there for 5 years. And, I didn't just live around San Juan, where all of the tourists go on the cruise ships. I actually lived in Boca Raton on the southwestern part of the island in Cabo Rojo. And that's, a place that, that's near like the Laguna Cartagena, where the UFOs are seen all the time going in and out of the water, and there were UFO crashes there. And I even have some UFO crash debris I collected personally from there that's in the Boulder City Chamber of Commerce right now on display, as well as an alien crystal skull that's also at the Chamber of Commerce in Boulder City. And so I miss it, but my goodness, George, as much as I love the Caribbean, when those hurricanes come through, it's just so devastating. I just couldn't. I can't be there full time. It's too heartbreaking. And
they do come through. They come through a lot, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you can. I had cameras all over that island that were running 24 hours a day, getting footage of UFOs. You and I worked together on some experiments there. And I was getting great stuff. But when Hurricane Maria came through, and I guess that was 2018 or something like that, it destroyed all of my stuff. And my stuff was not insured. So.
Devastating, my friend. We're going to come back and take final calls with you in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, along with Joshua P. Warren. Josh, you do a great job, by the way. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you. That means a heck of a lot coming from you because, my goodness, you've done it all, George. And, I've always looked up to you. It doesn't matter whether it's broadcasting with radio or doing TV shows or live events or writing books. I honestly have no idea how that you do so much, but you impact people deeply. You change their lives, and it's remarkable how I don't know how you have the energy. I kind of think it's a funny story. I asked you one time, like, George, what do I do to get extra energy, before I come on the air late at night? You said, take a nap. So it's like, I was hoping you'd give me some, here's my magical pill that I take.
That's right.
I don't have as much energy as you have, but I want to fit in here real quick that, a lot of people may be heartbroken when the show ends tonight, but for the past, believe it or not, 3 years, almost 3 years, I've been doing the Strange Things podcast, and it comes out every Friday.
Great
and so in about 7 hours, my new Strange Things podcast is going to drop if all goes according to plan, and it is how to be lucky and some top manifestation tips. So that's like at noon New York time, 9 a.m. L.A. time. So it's great to be on here tonight, and anybody who wants to listen, once again, just go to coasttocoastam.com and click that podcast link at the top. And so, George, you and I have known each other for about 20 years, and it's just an honor to be able to say that I have a podcast that you have christened, and that means so much to me. So thank you for that.
You do a great job with that. Let's go to Mayat in New York to get us started here. Hi, Mayat.
Yes, hey, good morning, gentlemen. I always get in a good mood when I hear Joshua. I have one main question this morning and some requests which perhaps George, Tommy can help me out with.
Okay.
First, the question is, what is the role of the subconscious? In other words, we don't seem to realize that the subconscious very much creates a reality that we often don't recognize, and its connection to the Sigils. Now, and I'll listen over the air to your answer, but the request, I'm the Mayat that some time ago had been eligible for the one free wish, and you directed me on that program to go to your site, and I could not find, I get your newsletter, but I could not find or connect with the voting. So I'm wondering if Tommy would take my email, put a string around your finger, if you would, and maybe you could connect to me and I'm very much interested in getting the machine, especially if it can be programmed by that gentleman who was doing it before. But if you have my question, and George, can Tommy pick up and get my email so that Josh, with the string around his finger, would remember his promise of that one free wish?
Sure. Let's let you hear Josh's response first, then Tom get the email from Mayat. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, Mayat, thank you first off for your kind words. I really appreciate that. And you bring up a really good question. What is the role of the subconscious when it comes to the effectiveness of sigils? I think that it's possible that our lives are guided more by the subconscious than the conscious. And I think that even though I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or one of those types of people, they would probably tell you the same, that basically it's almost like that you're haunted in a way by things that you have been exposed to which make an imprint on your psyche. For example, one of the things that I do for fun, and unfortunately at this point in my life, I'm working way too much, and at some point I'm going to have to pull back and have more fun time. I like to play the piano. And I remember that one time in my life, I was composing a lot of music for the piano, and one of the ladies that I really admired who did a lot of work in that arena, she said, be very careful when you're composing work for the piano because you may not realize it, but you may be basically writing something that you heard 10 or 15 years ago that just got stuck in your head that you can't quite put your finger on. And she was right. And that's kind of a spooky thing because you apparently kind of store everything, so they say, in the subliminal psyche, and there may even be a connection to the Akashic record. Recently George interviewed a lady who was talking about that. So I think that these sigils may somehow be like music. Music is a good analogy. Music is abstract. It transcends language. Sigils are abstract. They transcend language. And it doesn't matter where you're from. If you see a sigil, it seems to give you the same message. That's what I'm finding based on my research. And so I think it does make some kind of an impression in the subliminal. As far as free wishes and that kind of thing, I believe what you're what you might be referring to is that there are times where I say, if you do this or that, if you help me out with a certain project, then something good will happen to you. I don't guarantee free wishes or anything like that. That would be unethical. But I can definitely tell you that if you go to my website, you'll find a lot of free stuff there that is all intended to help you, because I believe in karma, and I think that if you do something, if I give you something that helps you, it's going to help me as well, and we all help each other out. And so that's why people who sign up for my free e-newsletter get all kinds of opportunities to participate in really interesting projects that are positive for, I hope, the whole world.
First-time caller John in Wisconsin is with us. Hey, John, go ahead, sir.
Hi there, gentlemen. George, Josh.
Hey, John.
Hope both of you are well. I love your show, George. And my question is to Josh, how could a non-medium or what have you try to connect with spirits or ghosts or those who have passed? I've experienced spirit orbs and even an apparition, and I have astral projected and believe I've met my dead cousin and other relatives in my dreams. I know like Ouija boards can let evil spirits and demons in your life, and because of that I've never used one, but I've always been very interested in trying to connect with spirits and my past loved ones. Any advice?
Yeah, thank you for that question, John. It's funny because some people absolutely do not want to have those types of experiences, and some people like you want more of them. And there are many different things that you can do, but I think the easiest thing that everybody can do for free is if you go to thesigillab.com. There's a section where it says for info it's toward the bottom. It says for more info on paracymatics, click here. When you do that, you're going to find almost 20 free sigils that I've created, and one of them is called attracting paratemporals, which is a word that I use for all types of paranormal beings and paranormal phenomena. I wrote about it in my book called The Secret Wisdom of Kukulkan, which is on Amazon. And if you get that attracting paratemporals sigil, you will be surprised by what starts happening very quickly in your life. As a matter of fact, it's just like all the other sigils. You'll see it there. You click on it. You get an enlarged version of it. And then all you have to do is just put it on your phone or your tab or print it out and look at it as often as possible. And you will start having these experiences. There's also one right next to it for stopping that kind of thing, for neutralizing paratemporal and paranormal experiences. So both of those things are there for free. But if you are the person who literally wants to have more just manifestation in your life in general, I mentioned this earlier, and we don't have enough time to get into it, but there's this substance called electrum, which was very, very sacred to a lot of the ancient societies. It's a combination. It's an alloy of gold and silver. And the Egyptian pyramids were capped with electrum. A lot of the mummies have been found with electrum poured on their faces. Electrum was used in coinage. And to this day, I believe they use it on the Nobel Prize medals. Electrum has always been a very mystical, magical substance. And I find that when I wear electrum, that things start manifesting more quickly for me. And so I actually found an artisan here in the U.S. who makes electrum rings. And I'm gonna be taking orders if any of you guys would like to get an electrum ring until this coming Tuesday, August 22nd. And you can go to the website there to learn more about it, thesigillab.com. But if you're the kind of person who wants to manifest more stuff quickly, I've had a lot of success with electrum. Whether you get the electrum ring that I'm talking about or you just experiment on your own, whatever works for you is fine. But those are two pieces of advice that I would give you.
East of the Rockies, Daniel's with us in Florida. Hi, Daniel. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, George, and thank you. Always nice to hear your voice.
Thank you.
And even I love Mayette's questions, the way she poses them, and her intellectual and thoughtful ways of setting things up.
Yeah, she's
and thank
organized.
you, Josh. Wow, what an important name in my life, and a lot of things you're saying are just impacting me. I like your attention to the subtle and different things for inspiration and to manifest. And I wanted to know about two things. And things about totems. I've heard some new things about totems and things etched into totems that have been recently found in Colombia from somebody that lives there and went to a sacred mountain or a translator. So that may not even come out for a while. But about a violet wand, if you could say anything about violet wands. You mentioned about a wand, so that's one curiosity of mine. If you could say anything to that, and then also about the sigils, and whether they're almost like a practice tattoo or something that's meaningful to us that can be added to and help to almost not necessarily with intention, but to punctuate things we've already experienced. And if you use any of that to memorialize things and also to and add to them as you go forward, do they ever transform? And the black abyss really resonated with me, and I saw a mystical sort of smoky hand with a black abyss upholding some sort of sigil that I imagined as you were describing that. So, and that's kind of what about the sigils a little more. I love the sigils and knowing about any violet wand. And thank you, George. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Well, hey, Daniel, thank you. I love your question because I get the sense that you are you're definitely grasping the magnitude of how all this stuff connects, because it is hard to sort of consolidate it all into certain words. But okay, let me break it down one by one. Yes, totems are extremely important. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned my book, The Secret Wisdom of Kukulkan, where I talked about how or I wrote about how that I believe that one of the places that had the first kind of interdimensional contact was Central and South America, and that the symbology there is much less understood than the symbology we have in the Middle East and various parts of Africa. And so, totems are definitely sigils of some kind. And they tie directly into the idea of wands, because oftentimes, like something like a totem pole is basically a big wand. And wands are important because anything that's linear just is directional. So, like, for example, if you walk up to a dog and you just suddenly point at it, most dogs will stop and look at you. And you might think, well, that's just conditioning. All right, fine. So what? You can probably walk up to a person and stop and point, and the person will stop and look at you. It's about the art and science of directing attention, and energy flows where attention goes. And so these linear things like wands, they definitely are directors of attention, and since that determines the way the energy flows, that makes them powerful. Of course, colors are only the color, but they are because of the vibration they have. So, for example, red is a lower frequency than violet. Violet is one of the highest frequencies that we're able to see, which is why you might want to look into something like Nikola Tesla's purple plates. And so a violet wand would be a very, very powerful tool. But ultimately, I believe that if you could take something like sigils and put them on something like a violet wand, especially if it had an electrum tip on it, you might have a heck of a powerful tool. And believe it or not, I'm working on creating something like that.
Well, you're doing a remarkable job with it, Josh. Thank you so much. Josh's website linked up at coasttocoastam.com. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lone Hood, Sean Ladesseur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Borles, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian